A very good evening to all of you and welcome back to this series of English language portion of your CUET exam. And today's topic is going to be para-jumbles for CUET. So we have seen that there were certain questions from this section. We thought of coming live with this topic. Let's see today what para-jumbles is and what kind of questions come from this portion and what kind of skill set do we need to have to overcome any challenge related to this type of questions. Without any further ado, let's begin with today's live. Now first of all, common question types that had been seen in CUET exam are misspelt words, one word substitution. So misspelt word simply tests your ability to properly spell a word, right? And the second one is one word substitution, in which you get a phrase on the basis of which you have to find out that one word which suffices the meaning of that phrase. Then there were questions from antonyms and synonyms. Antonyms are opposite meaning words. You had to find out on the basis of the given word from the four options which word is exactly opposite in meaning to the given word. Questions were seen from synonyms also, that is similar meaning words, synonymous words. Then there were questions from analogy. We've done a video on analogy also. You can go back and see the video. Analogy is drawing comparison or similarity between two words, or on the basis of a given set pair of word you have to find a similar relationship pair, right? Then there had been questions from reading comprehension. We got to know that there were 3 reading comprehension with 5 to 6 questions each. Questions were also from para-jumbles, which are also known as sentence rearrangement. So this is the one topic that we are going to take today. We will further understand what is under sentence rearrangement. There were questions from literary devices. We were live with this topic also. We've done this topic also. You can go back to that video and see what literary devices are or literary terms are. Idioms and phrases is one topic, and then there were questions based on fill in the blanks, or we can say filler questions, filler words you had to find out from the options. So now you know how many topics are there in English language portion of the paper. Let's now particularly see what para-jumbles is. And also, if you want me to come live with any of these topics apart from para-jumbles, feel free to write it in the chat box or the comment box. We will come up with that topic in the next live. So first question, what are para-jumbles? You can see this jigsaw puzzle in front of you. So just as a jigsaw puzzle where some pieces are missing and you have to arrange them in a proper order so that the image makes some sense, similar is the case with para-jumbles. Still wondering what para-jumbles is? So what actually is para-jumbles? So see, you must remember from your childhood days that there were questions there you used to solve sudokus or jigsaw puzzles or detective stories. Similar is the case with para-jumbles. Just as a detective untangles a story, tries to understand, let's say join the dots and to understand what might have happened, what happened after this, and reaching to a conclusion. Similarly, in para-jumbles, you get sentences randomly put in a random order, and you have to arrange them in a proper order so that it makes a cohesive paragraph. So that is what sentence rearrangement is. Some 4 to 5 sentences will be given to you and you have to arrange them in a proper order. So what are the skills required to deal with questions of para-jumble? They are ability to read and comprehend articles on diverse topics. So again, it demands from you that you should be a keen reader. You should read from diverse subject areas because para-jumbles can be from any area, any subject. Ability to understand the flow of thought in the sentences. Just as a story is a cohesive one, fabricated very logically, the sequence of the, or let's say the the order of the events is in a proper sequence, similar is the case with the parajumbles. So it's very important that you understand the flow of thought of the speaker or the writer or the author and try to guess each next or successive line. Ability to understand the flow of thought, ability to connect the stream of ideas, different ideas which have been given to you in different sentences. You should be able to join them together, to knit them together and make a proper story. And then regular practice is something which will help you ace questions based on parajumbles. Now that you know the skills required, let's see the first thing, that is the first sentence or the opening sentence. So you have 4 to 5 sentences. The first task is to guess the opening line, right? Let's see how to guess the opening line. It introduces the idea or the theme of the paragraph. So look for that one sentence which introduces the theme or the idea. It is an independent sentence. Always remember this, the opening sentence is always an independent sentence because nothing precedes it. It is not supporting any idea, right? It doesn't depend upon any other idea to make a complete sense. So it is an independent sentence. That is, does not depend on other sentences to complete the meaning. It may have subject or noun of the theme or central idea present. So the opening sentence will mostly have the proper noun, the name of that noun, and the succeeding lines will have a pronoun used for that same noun. But yes, opening line will have the noun. It may talk of a general idea or may be written in a generalized way. Obviously, because it is an independent sentence, it introduces you to some general idea or the theme that will further be discussed in the other sentences. So that is what introductory sentence is. On the basis of it, let's see if you can answer the first question. Identify the opening sentence. So there are 3 sentences. You can see the first one. I'll move on to the next slide once you are done reading it, and then try to guess which one out of the 3 sentences is the opening sentence. Take your time and read the sentence. When born to parents of different races or nationalities, or when born in one country, reared in another, and finally settled in a third, one cannot give a simple answer to the question of racial or national identity. Must be wondering, what is the subject area of this particular case, right? Let's see the other 2 sentences also and get a clear picture. The question of one's identity is at the same time a simple and very complex issue. Is one to be identified by one's race, nationality, gender, place of birth, place of death, place of longest residence? So different parameters or factors are given that determines a person's identity or personality, that influences a person. So one thing that you can see from these sentences is, in this there are a lot many factors mentioned, like the residence, occupation, class, relationship, personality traits, size, age, interests. So a lot of factors have been mentioned. This can be an opening sentence. The topic of one's identity has been introduced here. And in this sentence, when born to parents of different races, nationalities, or when born in one country and reared in another, just the residence or the parental influence is considered. So you see, we move from a general idea to a specific idea. Once the issue of one's identity has been mentioned, the writer or the speaker is moving on to the particular case of being born in a particular country, or it depends upon the residence of a person. So the opening sentence, which you can clearly see here, is the second one. And the third one, when one is born female in a world dominated by males of 2 different races, further complications ensue. This word further, it's a key word here. This shows that something has already been mentioned, and something has already been mentioned before this sentence or in the previous sentence. So further adds on to it. So this cannot be the opening sentence. This is how you can guess the opening sentence. Concluding sentences. Now done with the opening sentences, let's see how to guess the last sentence. So once we are done with the opening and the closing sentence, it becomes easy to arrange the rest of the sentences. It starts with conclusion trigger words like such as, so, therefore, hence, as a result of, thus, etc. So again, these are the trigger words, the key words that you should notice. If they are present in any of the sentence, read the sentence carefully, look at the context. It might be the closing line, the concluding line. However, the context is very important. As I've just told you, context is something you should always consider, and concluding sentence will not always start with one of the above mentioned words. There you go, you have a question based on concluding sentences also. Try to find out the concluding sentence of this. If you can see the first sentence says to trace its frontier. It means a pronoun has been used. There must have been some noun before it. So this cannot be the opening sentence. So this becomes a contender for the closing sentence. To trace its frontier was to cross constantly back and forth between reality and fantasy. Now, in the remaining two sentences, the proper noun Bohemia has been used. See, even in this one, it has been used. Bohemia, bordered on the north by hope, work and gaiety on the south by necessity and courage, on the west and east by slander and the hospital. Henry Murder. Now this particular person, he's given this quote. But why has he given this quote? We have still not been introduced to the topic. So this makes the third sentence, which is introducing us to Bohemia, its geography, is the opening sentence. For its 19th century discoverers and explorers, Bohemia was an identifiable country with visible inhabitants, but one not marked on any map. And those visible inhabitants are mentioned here, right? So this becomes the first sentence. This is the second, and this becomes our third sentence. Because a pronoun has been used here, it cannot be an opening line. That is how you smartly guess the opening and closing lines. So we are done with introductory sentences and the conclusion sentences. Let's see if you can guess both the opening and the closing. Let's make it a little more difficult. Find out the opening and closing lines of this example. You have 5 sentences here. Michael Hoffman, a poet and translator, accepts this sorry fact without approval or complaint. Again, a pronoun has been used here, but in an opening line, we mostly see a noun phrase, or a subject. Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact. What sorry fact are we talking about? We need to be clear about it. So something should be preceding it. So this cannot be an opening line. But thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him. Because it starts with but, it again cannot be an opening line because this is not an independent sentence. He acknowledges too, in fact, that he returns to the point. A pronoun again. How do we know who we are talking about? The name has not been mentioned. So this also cannot be the opening sentence. See, we've easily negated 3 options. And then we are left with 2 options. Hoffman feels passionately about his work. Just Hoffman. The full name has not been given here. This again cannot be the opening line. In terms of gap between worth and rewards, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So this is a sentence which is independent, conveys a complete sense, introduces us to the topic. The topic is how are translators treated? They are relegated to the margins. They are considered or compared to the nurses and the cleaners. So this is a sorry fact that Hoffman is worried about. So yes, this becomes a perfect opening line here. E is the opening line. And what about the closing line? E becomes our opening line. Let's write it down. It will get even more easier. Yes, guys, read these 3 sentences again and try to guess the closing line. Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact. The sorry fact, that is, translators are not given their worth, is the opening line. So this becomes the second line because it is it's successfully, let's say it is succeeding the sentence E. So this becomes the next sentence, right? What can it be followed by? Can it be followed by C? He acknowledges to. This word to shows that there is continuation of the idea that has been mentioned in A. So this becomes the next line. Now we are left with B and D. B starts with but. So but needs to have something before it. There should be some idea before it. Only then we are putting but and giving a contrasting idea. So B is the last sentence. We are left with D. So this is your sequence. E is the opening sentence, B is the closing sentence. So parajumbles as such are not that difficult. Even in our day-to-day life, we do practice parajumbles or sentence rearrangement. Think about, if you have a task allotted for today, you will do it in a sequence, right? Obviously, if you go to a restaurant, you will first order the food, you'll have the food, you'll have the cuisine, and then you'll pay the bill. Or will you just enter into the restaurant and straight away pay the bill? No, right? There is a sequence to things. So while dealing with questions of parajumbles, you need to understand the flow of the thought, the flow of the story. You need to connect the ideas of the sentences. Look for the independent sentences, and for the closing sentences, look for the trigger words. Like here, the word but. I hope parajumbles or sentence rearrangement is somewhat clear to you. In today's live, we talked about the opening sentence and the closing sentence. In the upcoming live, we will be talking about forming the pairs. That will help you to form pair and arrange the sentences in between the opening and the closing line. So if you want to learn more about it, stay tuned to Hitbullseye and keep watching the videos, sharing it and liking it. Thank you and have a happy learning time.